So this is a weird one. What a bizarre and fascinating viewing experience this is. So dated and kind of horrible in many ways. Although, just the backstory of how this thing came about, it just makes you think, wow, people were silly at one time. Now, let's read out some. I'd just like to read the history associated with this particular work. See, it's based off of a novel, Mazes and Monsters, of the same name, 1981 novel by one Ronald Jaffe, Jaffe. The novel is a cautionary tale regarding the then new hobby of fantasy role playing games, Dungeons and Dragons, you know. The book was adapted into this made for television film of the same name, 82, starring, as you can see from this poster, Tom Hanks. The novel is based in large part on the largely apocryphal steam tunnel incidents of the late 1970s. These urban myths developed during the infancy of role playing games, generally purporting that university students playing a live action version of Dungeons and Dragons or similar game disappeared into the utility tunnels of the school and became lost, and in some cases died of hypothermia and or other causes. The legends had risen due to newspaper reports concerning the disappearance of a Michigan State University student named James Dallas Egbert III. Egbert had played Dungeons and Dragons and did in fact go into the steam tunnels of his school, but with the intent of committing suicide. When his attempt on his life failed, he hid at various friends' houses for several weeks. During this time, the private investigator hired by Egbert's parents to find him speculated in the press that perhaps Egbert had gone into the steam tunnels to play a live version of the game and gotten lost. The media reported the theory as fact and caused controversy over the effects of playing the game. The public received the novel amidst a climate of uncertainty regarding the new pastime of role-playing games. Jaff's account was read by many as a legitimate depiction of role-playing games, as many of her readers had no prior knowledge of the subject. In fact, in 1985, psychiatrist and anti-television violence activist Thomas Radecki of the National Coalition on Television Violence cited a fictitious letter written by a character in this novel as proof that D&D had caused the death of gamers. It's fascinating. Like the contemporary Hobgoblin, this is a species of social problem novel, although not aimed at young adult readers, by an established writer, which treats the playing of role-playing games as indicative of deep neurotic needs. In both books, the protagonist is, or at least appears to be, suffering from schizophrenia or some analogous condition. In both books, the attainment of mature adulthood is accompanied by the abandonment of role-playing games. Horrifying. Sales of the book may have benefited in the early 1980s from other negative media reports regarding D&D and similar games, such as those promulgated by Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, BADD, an anti-RPG advocacy group. This negative media climate, combined with the dramatic fictional events portrayed in Jaff's book, led CBS to contract for the television rights to the novel. The movie adaptation premiered on the network in 1982 and starred a then 26-year-old Tom Hanks as a gamer whose obsession prevents him from being able to tell what is real and what is fantasy, and it's a fascinating filmic execution of very bizarre and odd, frankly schizoid material in and of itself. And they're trying to diagnose it. As we all know now, this depiction of an obsession with role-playing games turning one into or exacerbating to an immense degree someone's innate or inherent mental health concerns. This is a sensationalized depiction of if such an occurrence was to be reported. Now, this was a moral panic surrounding the old tabletop role-playing games. It increased with the popularity, the rise of new video games in the 1990s and then the 2000s of Grand Theft Auto. Then we had, people going to become too obsessed with the internet. That's possibly true. Are people going to take all this social media and looking at all this crap on YouTube and become convinced that they're this and that and their archetypes belong to these abstracted kind of artificial, superficial ideals created by social media and video platforms in order to show off this kind of impressionable self rather than an actual self, and so people are no longer grounded and influenced from real world archetypes, but rather by these abstracted kind of insecure ideals which they project in order to impress others on a social media video platform context rather than from, understanding and interacting with each other in the real world. There's reason to have a mild moral panic about this, perhaps, but not about D&D. That was not worth panicking about. The scale was so small. Now, people looking at internet stuff and deciding that, oh yeah, I'm going to force myself to be like that, and then just people getting lost in internet expression, as opposed to, people think this of me, people think that of me. That's the real danger. This D&D stuff's cute by comparison. Anyway, thanks again, good and dear friends. Go outside, turn off YouTube, never go on Reddit ever again, delete all social media accounts unless you absolutely have to stay in contact with people on some platforms, don't have phone numbers or whatever. Don't go full Luddite, but go a little bit Luddite. Just a little. Hey, get out, go outside, meet people, and then go inside and play some D&D. Hell of a lot more healthy for you. I guarantee that. No, I really do.